My life completely changed the day I found out about my husband's affair.
Just sign this and disappear.
He shoved the divorce papers at me with a smirk, pretending he wasn't at fault. That day I took my young son, went straight to City Hall, and filed the divorce papers. I also immediately informed my workplace. However, this chain of events would soon take an unexpected turn. While my ex-husband's cruel words left me feeling shattered, help came from the most surprising of places. Witnessing his behavior firsthand made me recognize my own worth and rediscover my strength. At the most difficult moment, an unlikely ally appeared, giving me hope and pushing my life in a new direction. As everything came to light, the true twist revealed itself at the end of the month. My name is Lisa and I'm 32 years old. I work as a librarian in a small town library. This library isn't just a place to borrow books. It's a central hub for the community, hosting events, organizing book clubs, and offering a variety of resources. Watching the children use the library is a huge joy for me. The moments when I can help them grow through books are the most rewarding part of my job. People often say I'm kind and sincere, but because I'm not very assertive, I tend to go along with others too easily. However, deep down, I know I have a strong sense of justice and independence. For example, today I had a small incident at the library. One of the regular patrons, Mr. Anderson, asked me,
Lisa, do you have any new ideas for the next book club meeting?
Eager to meet his expectations, I answered, though I was a bit nervous. Yes, actually. I'm thinking about making story time more engaging for the kids and maybe even inviting local authors for a meet and greet. Mr. Anderson smiled, clearly pleased.
That sounds fantastic. The kids will love it, I'm sure. I really respect your creativity, Lisa.
His words boosted my confidence and I continued. Thank you, but I can't do it alone. I'm hoping to get some volunteers for the story times.
Count me in. I'd love to help the kids discover a love for reading.
This kind of exchange is a common part of my daily life. The joy I feel when my ideas are accepted by the community is indescribable. The library is more than just a building. It's a place where learning and growth happen. I'm grateful to work here. I met John when we were both 30 years old. He worked as a manager at a well-known construction company in town. Our meeting happened by chance in the very library where I work. One day, John came to the library to find some construction-related materials for his job. He was tall and had an intellectual aura that immediately caught my attention. He walked down the long shelves, clearly struggling to find what he was looking for. Hello? Can I help you find something? He looked surprised at first, but then smiled gratefully.
Thank you. I'm looking for materials on a specific construction technique, but I haven't had much luck.
If it's about construction techniques, I think I know just the section. Let me show you. As we searched for the materials together, our conversation flowed easily. I was drawn in by his wide range of interests and knowledge. After that, John started visiting the library more often and we naturally became close. It didn't take long before we exchanged numbers. On our dates, we often went to museums or art galleries. Listening to his explanations while admiring the exhibits felt like having a personal tour guide. Learning with him was always fun. John had joined his family's business right after college, which gave him a somewhat sheltered worldview. But his insights were always sharp. However, because of his pampered upbringing, John was sometimes irresponsible and self-centered. For example, he often wanted to change plans last minute or insist on getting his way. Still, the fact that his family ran a reputable business gave me a sense of security. Perhaps that's why I ultimately decided to marry him. I also used my cooking skills to win him over.
I can't believe you can cook something this delicious. Lisa, you're the best. I'm so lucky.
Every time he said that, I smiled to myself. Then one day, he proposed seriously.
Lisa, I can't imagine a future without you. I want to spend my life with you. Will you marry me?
Yes, of course. I'd be happy to. Our married life was relatively happy. However, there were times when John's self-centered behavior irritated me. Even so, I never imagined how much meeting him at the library would change my life. When we got married, we also started living with John's parents. For John, it was a natural choice, as he was helping run the family business. At first, I was optimistic and agreed, thinking it was a new step for our marriage. But soon I realized how naive I had been. John's mother was very strict about manners and etiquette, and in her house, her rules were law. Her strict guidelines dictated how things should be done at home, and she made sure I was trained in every detail. One evening at dinner, I accidentally held my fork incorrectly. That's not how you hold your fork. Didn't you learn proper manners? She coldly pointed it out. John and his father were both at the table, but neither said a word, and the room fell into a heavy silence. I apologized, but inside I was overwhelmed by her harshness. I married into this family, but it felt like I was being tested. Yet John always brushed it off.
Mom's been like that forever. You'll just have to get used to it.
He would say this with a laugh, and we'd move on. As the days went by, I slowly adjusted to the household rules and tried to meet Heather's expectations, but her demands only escalated. I had to wake up early to do housework, keep track of the family's schedule, prepare perfect meals, and even make special dishes on weekends. These tasks felt like new challenges every day, especially on weekends when my cooking would be directly judged by Heather. Even though I enjoyed cooking, the pressure of being judged weighed on me, especially by her. "And this is a bit too salty. Eating something this salty isn't good for your health. Be more careful." Comments like that flew around the dinner table. I responded by trying to improve the next meal, but satisfying her seemed nearly impossible. Her strictness sometimes felt suffocating, but I tried to understand that she believed in maintaining order in the household. The invisible pressure from her weighed on me every day, but at the same time, it made me grow stronger. However, Heather wasn't always strict. "Lisa, we all work together to protect this family. You're an important part of it now, so take responsibility, okay?" Her words made me realize that I was being accepted as part of the family, and I felt a small sense of relief. On the other hand, I had always thought John would be my ally, but I quickly realized that his dependence on his mother was much stronger than I imagined. In every situation, he would prioritize his mother's opinion. John couldn't make any major decisions without his mother's approval. Because his mother had spoiled him growing up, John lacked a lot of basic social skills. For example, one day when he faced trouble at work, he immediately called someone for advice. But it wasn't his father or a coworker he called. It was his mother.
"Mom, what should I do?"
I was shocked the first time I saw this happen. "John, why don't you try figuring it out on your own first?" I gently suggested, but John frowned.
"I don't know what to do, and Mom's advice is always the best."
His words left me feeling disappointed. Whenever John faced a problem, he immediately relied on his mother, and this had begun affecting our marriage as well. His mother's overprotective upbringing caused John to act immaturely in social situations. One evening, we went out to dinner with another couple, but when the conversation shifted to a topic John didn't like, he immediately became moody and silent. "John, are you okay?"
"I'm fine, just bored with all this pointless talk."
That was his only response. "Isn't John acting a little childish?" Later, a friend said this to me, and I didn't know how to respond. "John, you're an adult now. You need to start handling things on your own. You can't rely on your mother for everything."
"But Mom's opinion is important to me, and I trust her judgment."
His words made me sigh deeply. I realized it wouldn't be easy for John to break free from his mother's influence. His mother seemed completely unaware of how dependent John was on her, or maybe she didn't mind. "Lisa, please understand John better. He still has a lot of growing up to do, and it's important that you support him." I felt a wave of resistance inside, but simply replied, "Yes, I understand." Heather's overprotectiveness was only making John more dependent, but she didn't seem to realize it. Time and time again, whenever John faced a problem, he turned to his mother for help. One day, John was given a major project at work. I thought he would finally consult his father, but instead he said,
"I'll ask Mom what to do."
"Shouldn't you ask your dad for advice? You're never going to grow if you keep relying on your mother." I said it seriously, but John wasn't listening.
"Mom's advice is better than Dad's, so I'll just go with that."
It was in that moment that I realized how hard it would be for John to become independent. Our married life continued under the influence of his mother, but I didn't lose hope. I was determined to believe that one day John would think and act on his own. His mother's strict yet protective upbringing has stunted his development in many ways, but I continued to hope he'd grow, even if slowly. A year after we married, our son Cody was born. Even his birth didn't come without complications. I had thought about several names for him, but Heather took over the decision. While I was resting in the hospital after giving birth, John and his mother went ahead and registered Cody's name without consulting me. When I found out, I was furious. I was in shock, lying in the hospital bed, realizing that my son's name had been decided without any consideration of my opinion. How could you let this happen? I tearfully confronted John, but he didn't seem to understand why I was so upset.
"Why are you crying? Cody is a great name. What's the problem?"
His words only made me angrier. "He's our son. We should have decided his name together. Why didn't you even ask for my opinion?" I sobbed as I spoke, but John still didn't seem to get it.
"Mom thought long and hard about the name too. It's not that big of a deal."
"Mom? Mom again?" I was speechless with frustration. Heather then entered the room, watching quietly as I vented my anger. Lisa, Cody is a beautiful name with a lot of meaning. I'm sure you'll come to understand that in time. I don't care about the meaning. You made the decision without me. That's the issue. Please, don't raise your voice in the hospital. Her words fell colder than ever. Tears continued to stream down my face, filled with anger and sadness. That night, I cried alone in my hospital bed, filled with a deep resentment toward Heather. That anger wouldn't easily disappear, but I knew I had to think about how to protect my family from here on out. As I watched Cody grow, I resolved to stand up for myself more and be stronger. A few months after Cody was born, on a Friday evening, John came home smelling of a perfume I didn't recognize. What's that smell? Perfume? Didn't you just go out with your friends?
Yeah, I went out with the usual guys. Why?
At first, I thought I was just imagining things, but my intuition told me something was off. From that day on, I began keeping a close eye on John's behavior. He started carrying his phone with him everywhere, even to the bathroom and the shower. He suddenly had more work and started coming home late. He always kept his phone face down, as if hiding something. Suddenly, everything felt suspicious. That weekend, after John left the house, I was cleaning up after breakfast in the kitchen when I noticed something on the counter. It was John's phone, left behind. I hesitated, wondering if I should check it. Just as I decided to put it back down, John's mother walked into the room. "Good morning, Lisa." I greeted her, and her eyes quickly moved to the phone on the counter. "Oh, John left his phone behind, didn't he?" I wasn't sure how to respond, but then she chuckled softly. "You know, John said his phone password is my birthday." "What? Your birthday?" Her words surprised me, and I said it out loud before I could stop myself. I was taken aback. His password wasn't my birthday or our anniversary. It was his mother's birthday. "Yes, he's always been so thoughtful when it comes to me. You know how kind he is, Lisa." She said it with a nostalgic smile. That's strange. I picked up the phone again, tempted to unlock it with her birthday, but I hesitated. I couldn't bring myself to do it. As I was about to put the phone back, a piece of paper slipped out of its case. What's this? It was a note with a social media handle written on it. I decided to search for the account online. When I found it, a woman's profile appeared, fully visible to the public. As I tapped into her account, I was shocked beyond relief. There were messages and photos that clearly proved John was cheating. Not just with this woman, but with multiple women. My heart turned cold as I scrolled through the evidence. Photo after photo of John laughing and spending time with these women stabbed at my heart. What? What is this? Who are these women? My voice caught in my throat, and tears welled up in my eyes. I didn't want to believe it, but the reality in front of me was undeniable. Our happy life together had been a lie, hidden behind John's betrayal. One of the recent posts even read, "Had a great time tonight. Hope to see you again soon." Didn't he say he was meeting friends? There are more posts. "Time flies when I'm with you. Thanks for always treating me so well." There were pictures of them at restaurants, enjoying meals together, and even posing in front of the city's night skyline. But the worst one was taken inside a private room at a hotel. My hands shook with rage and disbelief. Is this real? I stared at the undeniable evidence, feeling like my world was crumbling. The pain and anger overwhelmed me, and I couldn't hold back my tears. That afternoon, I finally made up my mind. I had to confront John directly. When he got home later that evening, I handed him his forgotten phone. "You left this behind today."
"Oh, thanks. I didn't even realize I forgot it."
He seemed completely unaware of what I had discovered.
"I guess I was too busy today."
His voice cracked slightly as he made excuses. "Oh, by the way, your mom mentioned that your phone password is her birthday."
"Oh, yeah, that's right. It's easy to remember."
His discomfort was obvious. I paid close attention to his facial expressions and body language, wondering if he was hiding something or just tired. "Hey, John, I've been meaning to ask you something."
"What's that?"
"You're pretty popular with women, right? How many women are you talking to these days?" He froze for a moment, then gave a nervous laugh.
Maybe 3? No, wait. 0. None.
His lie was painfully obvious. His face changed color and his voice wavered. "Don't lie to me. Is there really nothing going on?"
"I told you nothing's going on, Lisa."
"Then show me your phone."
"Why should I? That's an invasion of privacy."
The more defensive he became, the more suspicious I grew. I wasn't backing down now. If you're hiding something, just admit it. Otherwise, why are you getting so angry?
"I've had enough. Let's just get a divorce,"
he shouted, throwing divorce papers at me. "What? Why do you already have divorce papers?" He remained silent, clearly cornered. Is it because you've been planning to leave me?
Just sign it and disappear.
At that moment, I felt my heart break. I never imagined that the man I trusted would treat me this way. You're the one who cheated, and now you're treating me like this?
You don't even have proof of cheating.
I don't need proof. Your behavior says it all. We argued back and forth, both of us raising our voices in frustration. My anger and sadness reached their peak. John kept trying to justify himself, but I couldn't believe a word he said anymore. As the argument continued, I tried to remain calm, but my emotions overwhelmed me, and I began to cry. Eventually, I realized how ridiculous the situation had become. I took a deep breath, wiped my tears, and made up my mind. Fine, I'll sign it. I signed the divorce papers, wiped my tears again, and went to check on Cody, who was asleep in his room. I picked up my sleeping son, wrapped him in a baby carrier, and headed to the city hall that night. The cold night air bit at my skin, but I told myself I had to stay strong for Cody's sake. When I arrived at the city hall, I submitted the divorce papers. The clerk processed the paperwork quickly, and just like that, we were officially divorced. As the clerk stamped the papers, a whirlwind of emotions swept through me. I felt sadness, anger, and a strange sense of relief all at once. But a deep fear about the future tightened around my heart. On the way home, I looked down at Cody's peaceful, sleeping face. I told myself that I had to become stronger for him. I had no idea what our future would look like, but I knew I had no choice but to keep moving forward. After submitting the divorce papers, I took a deep breath and started thinking about my next steps. With Cody secure in his career, I decided to visit my in-laws and inform them of the divorce. They had helped us so much, and I felt it was important to let them know what had happened. When I arrived at their company, the receptionist greeted me with a smile.
Oh, hi, Lisa. It's been a while. What brings you here today?
I need to speak with my in-laws. I have something important to tell them.
Of course, I'll let them know.
The receptionist called them, and I was escorted to the executive office. When I entered the office, my father-in-law Henry and Heather were sitting there waiting for me. Heather looked as elegant as always, but when she saw my face, her expression changed slightly. Lisa, what's wrong? You don't look well. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for what I had to say. I've come to inform you that John and I have gotten a divorce.
Divorce? What are you talking about? What happened?
John has been cheating on me. When I confronted him, he demanded a divorce. He threw the papers at me and told me to sign them. I submitted them earlier today. Heather's face paled and her eyes widened in shock. John? Cheating? I can't believe it. I didn't want to believe it either, but I found undeniable proof. He admitted to it as well. Heather stood there speechless, processing the reality of the situation. After a long pause, tears began to roll down her face. Lisa, I'm so sorry. I had no idea John would hurt you like this. If only we had been more careful, you wouldn't be in so much pain. She began to cry, covering her face with her hands. Her shoulders trembled as she wept. Seeing her in that state made my heart ache. Please, don't blame yourself. John made his own choice. My words only seemed to stir more guilt in Henry. His expression darkened with anger.
This is all your fault. You spoiled him. Let him do whatever he wanted. No wonder he turned out like this.
Heather sobbed harder as Henry berated her, his frustration filling over.
Where is John now?
He should be at home.
Call him and tell him to come here right now.
I quickly pulled out my phone and dialed John. John, you need to come to the office immediately.
What? Why don't you come here instead?
No, your parents are asking for you. Just come now. John's voice was tense, and I could sense he was starting to panic.
All right, I'll be there soon.
After I hung up, the room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Heather continued to cry softly while Henry paced the room, anger visible in his every movement. I sat quietly waiting. Not long after, John arrived at the office. The moment he walked in, Henry unleashed his fury.
What the hell have you done, John? How could you betray Lisa like this? You call yourself a man?
John was taken aback by the intensity of his father's rage. He hesitated, but quickly composed himself.
Dad, calm down. This is between Lisa and me. Between you and Lisa? You betrayed your family. Do you have any idea what you've done?
John tried to speak, but his father cut him off.
You think divorce solves everything? You think you can just walk away from this? We divorced. It's done. What's the problem?
His cold words made Heather cry even harder. How could you? Her voice was choked with tears, and John stood there, unmoved. The tension in the room was suffocating.
You're a disgrace, John. I spoiled you. That's my fault. But this is unforgivable. You're fired. I don't care what you say. You're no longer working here. What? You can't fire me. Oh, yes, I can. And I am. Get out. Find your own way. But Dad, that's not fair. I'm good at my job. This has nothing to do with work. You don't even know what fair is. Just get out.
John was visibly shaken, but before he could argue further, his father pointed to the door.
You told Lisa to leave, didn't you? Now it's your turn. Get out of here.
John looked stunned, his usual arrogance fading. He turned to his mother, seeking comfort.
Mom, you understand, right?
His voice wavered, hoping his mother would defend him as she had in the past. But this time her reaction was different. No, John. You've made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences. Her voice was firm, and it shocked him. We've coddled you for too long. Now it's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet. John looked like he had been hit by a truck. He stood there in silence, processing his mother's final rejection.
From now on, you're on your own. Find a job. Find a place to live. Grow up. But...
His words stumbled, but he knew there was no point in arguing. I'll raise Cody on my own. You won't have to worry about us anymore. I spoke firmly, making it clear that I was moving forward without him. If you need anything, Lisa, for Cody's sake, we're here. I nodded, grateful for their support. Thank you, I appreciate it. But I'll manage. I looked at John one last time. He looked completely defeated, standing alone as his parents turned their backs on him. I took a deep breath and left the office, determined to start a new life for Cody and myself. John's life, meanwhile, took a sharp downward turn. He lost his job and was kicked out of his parents' house. He struggled to find work, bouncing from one job to another, each one ending in failure. Eventually, he had to take a low-paying job just to survive, but even that wasn't enough. He was forced to confront the consequences of his actions, and slowly began to change. Meanwhile, I continued to live with Henry and Heather, who insisted I stay with them. I started working at Henry's company, and Cody was raised in a supportive and loving environment. Heather also learned that love isn't just about indulgence. It's about setting boundaries when necessary. She became a firm but loving figure in Cody's life, teaching him manners and discipline. As time passed, our family grew stronger. We learned the balance between strictness and love, between support and independence. And I realized that true love means guiding the people you care about down the right path, even if it's hard. Cody grew up surrounded by love, respect, and support, and he thrived. His smile became the light in our lives, helping all of us look forward to a brighter future. I learned that even though people make mistakes, they can grow, learn, and become better if they truly want to. And I knew that no matter what, Cody and I would be just fine.